The reason the West has never stomped out communism is because communists fucking rock. Sorry, learning about commies is fun as shit. Vladimir Lenin was overthrowing the government and in a political and love triangle at the same time. But welcome back to the story of Vladimir Lenin. And where we left off, Lenin had just finished university and was starting a relationship with his future wife, Nadia. Whether this is for love or to kind of cover each other during the revolution, we don't really know. But early into the relationship, Lenin does get arrested for running a Lady Whistledown type printing operation to spread the writings of Karl Marx through the city. It was 1895 and just before the launch of their communist newspaper. The powers that be know all about our boy Lenin and his little revolution, so they refused him legal counsel and detained him for like a year before they sentenced him, which ultimately just gave him the time to get all of his thoughts in order and write books on the plights of capitalism entering Russia. And then they sent him off to exile in Siberia for 3 years. A few years later, his girlfriend Nadia would come and the two of them would make it official as husband and wife. And Lenin wouldn't produce any children in this marriage, but he would produce a lot of literature warning about capitalism under the pen name Vladimir Ilyin. And then in 1900, when his sentence was served, the Russian government still wasn't really fucking with him, so they banned him from St. Petersburg and he ended up in Pskov. He gets right back into writing revolutionary literature, and then he kinda realizes that this is super fucking dangerous, and if he keeps this up in Russia, he's gonna end up dangling from the end of a rope like his brother. So he hauls his ass west, staying briefly in Germany and Switzerland before settling in London. He's still running the newspaper from London, but now he's publishing works under the name Lenin. The Russian revolutionaries domestically are still being heavily targeted by the authoritarian government back in Russia. So all the leaders of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party decide that they are going to meet in London for a council to strategize a political game plan. And here's the thing, Lenin is about that life. He has no problem escalating this fight to wherever it needs to go to stop imperial interests from starving people to death under capitalism. So he's kind of representing the fuck around and find out fraction. And then the other side of the party is a lot more moderate. They're trying to appeal to a bigger demographic and they're much more down to just use their words. So the party split. It's now in two fractions, with Vladimir Lenin as the leader of the Bolsheviks and Julius Martov as the leader of the Mensheviks, now two fractions of the RSDLP, or the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party. The system is low-key fucked because Lenin is very headstrong and he's kind of a dickhead to work with, and he keeps writing these hit pieces on the Mensheviks, which did help Lenin secure the party for the Bolsheviks. And around this time, the workers in Russia that are doing all the labor in this industrial boom are starting to demand better conditions and compensation. In January 1905, thousands of unarmed civilians marched the streets to the Winter Palace of the Tsar. They came with a petition to strengthen the rights of factory workers. And though they were unarmed and this was peaceful, they had seemingly just created a king's worst nightmare. A group of like-minded, organized workers marching for their rights, also known as the largest threat to imperialism there is. So the Russian government was freaked the fuck out, and they decide to do the one thing that is going to make it astronomically worse. They opened fire into the crowd of unarmed protesters, killing over 150 people in an event forever dubbed Bloody Sunday, which is now the second Bloody Sunday we've covered on this channel, so shout out to France. But the events of Bloody Sunday, plus Russia just got spanked by the Japanese in the Russo-Japanese War. The Russian people were like, enough. Enough. The Tsar and his government are fucking psychotic, and worse than that, they're bad leaders who act only in their own self-interest. And through 1905, rebellion against the government was sparked. Workers were striking, servicemen were turning on their commanders, and Lenin decided this was the golden opportunity to return to Russia after almost half a decade away. And you know what he did when he got to St. Petersburg? You guessed it, started writing in a fucking newspaper. I know. Mix it up, paperboy, my god. This is also the year that Nicholas II put out the October Manifesto in an attempt to compromise with the Russian people by giving them more civil rights and creating a parliament system, or Duma, and the revolution vibes kinda chill for a bit after that. And things probably could have just coasted there for a while, but Nicky II decided to switch it up on him and started pulling back a lot of the reforms because he thought things were getting too radical. And they declared martial law in 1906, so boo! But all of the reforms send Lenin, the Bolsheviks, and the whole communist movement back to the drawing board. Everyone's floating ideas. Joseph Stalin's over there in the Georgian branch talking about starting a terror campaign against the government. He's trying to just take shit by force. But that's not a super popular idea, so Lenin doesn't commit to that. And the policies of the Tsar are getting closer and closer to home for the revolutionaries. So Lenin and the team fuck off to Finland so they can work in peace. And honestly, this isn't really working. Like, constantly having to retreat west because you're under prosecution isn't getting anything done stateside. Things have to get shaken up here, and there is a lot of movement within the party itself. Lenin and the Bolsheviks would maintain their control of the RSDLP, however, through a handful of Congress meetings which landed Lenin back in London. By the end of 1908, Lenin and Nadia had relocated to Paris. They actually kind of bounce around all over Western Europe, but the longer the RSDLP is operating outside of Russian politics, the more unpopular Lenin is becoming within the party. The Russian communists really want to go back to Russia and get a seat in the parliament system. And Lenin is like, you stupid slut, there is no seat in the parliament system. It's a fake parliament system stacked with the Tsar's sympathizers. So operations in Russia wouldn't be very safe at the moment, and also Lenin's health is kind of shit. He's not doing great. He's got some stuff going on with his cholesterol, or it could have possibly been neurosyphilis. His health sucks and his popularity is dwindling either way. Tensions are very high, and we see the official split of the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks into two separate political parties. So if we look at Lenin, not going great. If we zoom out to Russia, not looking great. And if we zoom out even further to Europe, bitch. Tensions are high all across Europe. We have the colonizers in England that are arguing with the colonizers in Germany about who gets to pillage Africa. Russia is talking mad shit to Austria, and the Ottoman Empire is collapsing. Shit is fucking crazy. And it all comes together to kick off World War I. And you know what World War I did? It created the perfect chaotic atmosphere for Lenin to reposition himself as the center of the Bolshevik Party. And I think you already know that the next part is the wildest. So please leave me a comment so I can use it for the next video, and make sure you're following me so you don't miss it. And I'll meet you back here to talk about what was happening while the Romanovs were in the basement.